SwimOutlet.com delivers the best online shopping experience. With an extensive selection and the lowest prices, you're guaranteed to find the product you need. Here's what you get. Free shipping on all orders over $49. Free 1 to 2 day shipping on all orders over $99. All orders placed by 6 p.m. ship out the same day. Shop at SwimOutlet.com, the web's most popular swim shop.
This is the Morning Swim Show for Tuesday, September 25th, 2012. I'm your host, Tiffany Elias. Today in the Finis Monitor is the recipient of the Glenn S. Hummer Award, which was given at the U.S. Aquatic Sports Convention for his contributions to open water swimming. Not only was he an open water coach at the 2012 London Olympics, but his own athletic accolades include 7 World Professional Marathon titles, 3 English Channel crossings, and Athlete of the Decade. Welcome, Paul Asmuth. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
To be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, first off, congratulations for your award given out only a few weeks ago.
Thank you.
Oh, that's very exciting. So you were a coach out in London for the open water, which is new to the Olympics. 2008 was the first year that open water was an event, the 10K at the Olympics. And so this was the second time around. Why don't you walk us through not only that experience, but the background in having open water be a part of the Olympics?
Well, 2008 was the first Olympics, as you said, in Beijing, and it was finally was put into the Olympics in 2005. And open water swimming has a great history around the world for the last 100 years and the sport is definitely growing. And so it was, there's 25 men and 25 women who compete. It's very difficult to make the Olympic team, both in the United States and around the world. There's to get in one of those top 25 spots. So it's very competitive. The Europeans continue to lead the way most of the time in the results, but it's a great sport.
So now, how long has there been a push for open water to be a part of the Olympics?
Oh, somebody like Sid Cassidy can give you great history on that. But it started in the early 90s to become an Olympic event, and they had their first FINA World Championships, I think, in Perth, Australia in 1991. And that started the whole process. So it took about 14 years from the time they started. And of course, they had meetings even before that in the late 80s trying to figure out a way to organize the sport in a way that would be acceptable to be an Olympic event. Initially, marathon swimming were traditionally races over 20 miles. And these races were 7 to 10 hour events. And that doesn't really work that great for an Olympic venue. So after a lot of back and forth, the 10-kilometer distance was what was decided would be the best for the Olympic distance.
Now, what were your thoughts on the 10K in London this year?
Well, it was really a great race. Both the women with Haley Anderson winning a silver medal for the United States, and the men with Alex Meyer getting 10th place in the men. But both races were very, very competitive. The venue was beautiful in the Serpentine. There was about 50,000 people watching the race, and it was really it's a historic venue in the middle of Hyde Park there in the center of London, and it was a beautiful venue for the spectators and very competitive venue for the competitors.
Now, what can you tell us about the training for an event like that? We're also familiar with how swimmers prepare for the longer distances up to the mile for the men, but what goes into the preparation for a 10K and how you helped coach Alex and Haley into the Olympics?
They do a majority of their training still in the pool, and then you need to supplement. Well, the recommendations typically they're doing 2 to 3 open water training sessions a week. We worked on very specific things with both Alex and Haley. Drafting, turns, race strategies, things like that. So there's very specific things that were worked on during the training camp leading up to the Olympics. And then during the race at the Olympics, there's strategies that you put in place that you hope are going to be successful, that you've been working on. And so first it takes a great athlete and a great swimmer to be successful in the open water, and then it takes people with certain I think mental abilities as well. People who are more flexible, who don't get rattled, who are very determined in what they're trying to do.
Well, speaking of successful athletes, you are one of the most decorated open water athletes. You have quite the background, so it's very suiting for you to be a coach here on the Olympic platform. But as I mentioned earlier, 7 world titles yourself. You were an open water swimmer of the decade. You've swam across the English Channel 3 times. So tell us a little bit more about your background and your experience going through open water and how it's evolved into what it is today.
Well, in the 80s and 90s, during those eras when I was swimming, the races were longer, typically 20 to 30-mile events, and the competition was still very, very fierce. And the cool thing about an open water race is you never know what the conditions are going to be like, even though one day it might be calm, the next day it could be windy and rough. The currents change the currents are different every day. So you're dealing with hot water, cold water, rough water, calm water, and the races are just they're very exciting if you're an athlete, especially. I know from a spectator standpoint that it can be hard, some of the venues, to see things. That's why the Serpentine was so great. The transition now has been, since with the addition of the 10-kilometer distance at the Olympics, the focus has been much more on the 10-kilometer distance. So instead of a 7-hour race, you have races that are more like the 10 kilometers, typically around 2 hours. But there's more races around the world, which is great. There's more interest. I think the 10-kilometer distance is much more approachable to people than a race that's 25 kilometers or longer.
Right. So would you say a big transition as well has been the rules and regulations of open water swimming? How, in your opinion, are those coming along?
I would say that open water swimming still has quite a ways to go as far as standardization of the sport, standardization of safety around the world, standardization of course, and so I think we still have a ways to go. Most of the races that have been around in the past, some are just absolutely fantastic when it comes to safety and course design. Like in Roberval and Lac Saint Jean, they've had that race there for almost 60 years. They're one of the best as far as running a race and race safety. Some of the newer races have things still to learn, and there still isn't. I don't think there's great standardization yet around the world.
Well, we're always trying our best to get those messages out there. Now, in your personal experience, a lot of people are familiar with that English Channel. Now, you've swam across that 3 times, which is quite the feat. How long did that take you? And first of all, how come you chose to swim that 3 times? Is there the potential for a 4th swim?
I don't think there's any potential for that. I was trying to break the overall record at the time, was held by Penny Dean, and 7 hours and 40 minutes, and my best time was 8 hours and 12 minutes, which was the men's world record at the time. So I was still trying to set the overall record, which was actually just recently broken by Trent Grimsey of Australia about 3 weeks ago. So it's sort of the one marathon swimming race around the world that most people are very familiar with.
Now, how long did that take you?
My best time was 8 hours and 12 minutes.
Wow. Well, that's very fascinating, and like you said, a lot of people are familiar with that, so even us non-open water swimmers can relate.
Yeah.
Now, what is it that you're doing when you're not coaching open water?
I'm the general manager at the winery called the Napa Valley Reserve here in St. Helena, California, in the beautiful Napa Valley.
Wow, that sounds great. So you're able to balance both of those at the same time.
Yeah, and right now we're just about starting our harvest, and the smells and sounds of harvest are all around us. It's a beautiful place to be.
Yeah, that does sound beautiful. Well, maybe Swimming World will take a trip out there one of these days.
You should. It's a
All right,
beautiful place.
so to close up, what would you say the future of open water swimming looks like?
Well, the United States national team right now is one of the absolute strongest in the world. We're always kind of going head to head with Italy, Germany, Russia. I think our women are absolutely have the most depth and experience open water swimmers in the world, and our men are really excellent as well. You know, our top two guys being Alex Meyer and Andrew Gemmel, and then there's other up and coming swimmers as well. The women, we have besides Haley, there's Christine Jennings and Eva Fabian and Emily Bruneman and Ashley Twitchell, and they're just they're really solid swimmers in the pool, and they're great open water swimmers too.
Great. Well, we're excited to keep following open water. Congratulations on your award, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Paul.
Have a great day.
That will conclude today's morning swim show. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with all the latest news. I'm your host, Tiffany Elias. Thanks for watching.